Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Jacky Blender series. This is David Ward. When last I left you, we had just started getting the head shaped up, and as I said, we're going to go in here and modify that just a bit, just to get it a little bit more to our liking, or to my liking, I guess. You might like it just fine as it is. I don't know, but anyways, let's jump in there and do that. Okay, so here we go. Go back into edit mode. Go to our side view. And I'd like to make the lower jaw here. Let's make that a little smaller. Maybe even scale it down a bit. And then bring his neck area. Speaking of neck area, let's go ahead and give him a neck. So we'll select these guys there and just extrude that down. Go to our front view and just drag it towards itself. Okay. And let's make his whole muzzle area a little skinnier. That's one trait that the Jack Russells have. They have a fairly narrow snout. The puppies aren't quite as narrow as the adults, but modify that anyways. So just kind of tweak here and there. Okay, looking kind of weird over here. Let's get that. Okay, now I mentioned in part 1 the ears would be bent down, but I was kind of thinking in between then and now that when we start adding fur and things like that, that might get a little cumbersome. So let's go ahead and straighten those out a little bit, just so we can see a little better what we're doing when we get into start. If I can select the right vertices, when we go in and start adding the fur and things like that, and texture painting for that matter. So get these straightened out a little bit more. Just give the hint of a curve, so we can kind of tell what it's going to look like. Okay, I think that'll work. And let's modify it just a bit more. A little bit floppier ears. There we go. And let's smooth it out. I got the smooth tool. I'm in sculpt mode already, so if you're not in sculpt mode, then it's easy just to go to sculpt mode right there. And I was already in it, so when I clicked it again, it took me out, I guess. So, just grab the smooth tool and just kind of smooth up the ear there a little bit. And also give us the opportunity to come in here and modify the inside of the ear canal area a little bit better. Drag that in. Let's thicken this spot here up a little bit. There we go. That looks better. Maybe give him a little bit of a thicker part there at the top of the ear. Okay, that's looking a little odd there. Just use the smooth tool, kind of clean that up a little bit. Okay, I think that'll work. Okay, I need to smooth, looks like his top lip area here. There we go. And let's go ahead and go inside the mouth now. Let's go ahead and turn off our mirror. Go inside the mouth. Turn the mirror off so we can go to this other side and see it a lot easier. Let's just make that quite a bit deeper there. Like so. Let's add another loop right in here. Okay, and then scale that on the Z-axis to make it taller. And then we'll add one more loop right there. Drag it a little closer to the lips. And let's turn off the proportional editing. Disable that. So we get a nice separation of the lip and inside of the mouth there. Deselect that guy. There we go. Okay, so let's create inside of the cheek a little bit better. And we'll go ahead and give him a tongue. Select these two faces there. And we'll go ahead and turn on the mirror right now just so it actually got kind of ugly in there, didn't it? Let's scale that down and move it over until it glues itself to the middle there. And we'll select that whole loop there. Just hold down Alt, right click on that, and it'll select that, like so. And then we'll just drag it. Actually, just hit SX and 0, and it'll scale it 0% on the X-axis, and that'll effectively glue it back together. And now we can round the lip out a little bit more so it's not so squared looking. There we go. And we can drag this down. I know what you're thinking, Dave. We were inside the mouth. Let's go back in there. Okay, hold on. Okay, so we'll go ahead and turn the mirror back off now. Okay, actually turn that back on because we were going to make the tongue. So we'll select these two guys and go and extrude that out. And the reason I wanted to turn that back on is if it was turned off and we extruded, you see it adds a face right there on the edge. And I don't want that, so we'll go ahead and undo that, turn that back on. And now when I extrude it, it does not add the face. So there we go. Let's scale that down on the Z-axis and then rotate it. And let's go and extrude out to about right there and scale it down a little bit. And let's round it off. Grab those 2 points there, drag those towards the middle, then grab these points, drag those back so it's, like I said, rounded off. Okay, and now obviously dogs like to hang their tongues out of their mouth, so we need to give it quite a few more vertices, quite a few more loops, so it's more stretchy, so it's more stretchable. So let's add 3 loops in there. Just add them right there in the middle, and let's add a couple there at the back as well. Okay. So now if we turn off the mirror, we can see it a little bit better. Let's kind of sculpt it to look more tongue-like. Let's give it a rounded sides, like so. And usually dog tongues are a little flatter than a person's tongue. So let's do that. Let's go into our side view. And I tell you what, one thing that'll make things a little easier when working inside the mouth, aside from turning off half the model, like if I want to get on this side, well, I still got the cheek in the way. So I'll tell you what we can do is go ahead and just select this loop there around the inside of the lips. And we're going to go Control E, and I'm going to mark a seam there. Now, normally you only mark seams when you're getting ready to unwrap the UV coordinates, but in this case it'll help us in our modeling because now that we have that separated by the seam, if we go to our face select mode and we select a face that's not inside that loop, that seam, and hit Control L, it'll only select all the faces on that side of the seam. So now we can hit H and hide those, and you can see that we can see the inside of the mouth a lot better. So that's just a little trick you can use to hide certain pieces of your mesh without having to go in and create vertex groups and things like that. A little bit faster. Okay, so we'll round this off, and then like I said, we'll make it a little flatter. Let me select all these guys and W smooth that, get them separated a little bit better. And maybe this guy as well. Smooth. There we go. Okay. Oops. Okay, so now let's select all these loops here on the tongue. And then the end of it, like so. Scale it on the Z-axis to make it flatter. And there we go. But let's add a little bit of curve to the middle of it. Get that seam running down the middle, as tongues tend to have. Okay, and let's drag this back. Okay, so now if we turn on the mirror again, and you can see once we tabbed out of edit mode, the rest of the model was still plainly visible. It's just hidden in edit mode. It's still there, but now we need to go ahead and fix this again, SX0, and just drag it till it glues. I don't know why I didn't do that anyways, but in any case, we got it. Okay, so that's starting to look good. I'd like to taper the tongue a little bit towards the back, taper it up. So let's select that whole loop there, go ahead and smooth that, maybe scale it up a little bit. Grab this guy, and tell you what, let's go ahead and turn on the proportion editing. Sorry if I'm too close to the microphone there, I didn't notice till just now. Go ahead and scale that up a bit. Maybe drag that down. Okay, so we got his tongue and the inside of the mouth. Now all we need to do is make the teeth, the gums and the teeth. So let's do that outside of the head. Let's go to object mode there. And we're going to come over here, just put our 3D cursor somewhere over here, Shift A, and we're going to add another cube. And we're going to basically do the same thing we did over on the head. We're going to W subdivide 3 times and go ahead and get rid of half of it. I had face select delete faces there, and I needed to be vertices. There we go. And we'll go ahead and add a mirror, just like we did on the head. And then we're going to scale this whole thing down, like so. And scale it on the y-axis as well. I don't know why I didn't scale that way. I must have hit X by accident. But anyways, we're going to shape this to be in the shape of a layer of gums. Like so. And then remember, like from part 1, you can hit E and extrude and then move it like so. Or if you just hold down Control and click, it'll automatically extrude to where you're clicking. It's not always as straight as you might like, so just go ahead and fix that back up. And this loop here. Okay, so this will be our gums. So let's grab the top row, actually grab that row and hit Control plus on your numpad, and it'll select one vertex out from what was selected. So since we had this middle loop here selected, we hit Control plus, it adds another vertex to the one that's selected. And since the whole row was selected, it went up one a whole row and went down one a whole row. But I don't want the one down here, so I'll hold down Alt Shift and right click on it and it'll deselect that. So now when I scale, it'll just be those top ones. But I want to hit Alt S so it scales along the normals, like so. And then let's do the same thing down here. I want just the bottom loop though. You can do that, click, 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 like so, or like I said, Control plus and then deselect. Gives us the same amount of clicks in the end, but it's multiple ways to do it, as I've said many times. Okay, so we got that kind of rounded looking. Now let's give him some teeth. Go ahead and tab back into edit mode, and I'm going to go ahead and put my cursor over here so when I add another cube, it's not so big that it merges with itself over there. So we'll drag that over here, scale this down, and these are not going to be biologically, anatomically correct teeth. I'm just going to add some in here so that when he opens his mouth, he has something to look at there. So we'll just add a few loops in there just to give it some shape. Grab that middle one, that middle vertex there. Let's grab all these guys. Tell you what, just hit Control L, select that whole thing, scale it on the y-axis, and I'll just go ahead and hit. Tell you what, one thing that'll be even easier, select this vertex at the very top and delete that. Now we select this whole tooth and W smooth. Boom. It'll smooth everything except for the top. So we want that to be, flat already. So since that doesn't have a vertex to smooth around, it just kind of cuts it off. So that's what we're looking for. So let's scale this on the Z-axis now. And we'll go to our front view and let's make this a little pointier. He is a dog after all. He's got pointy teeth. So let's drag this up there. Don't get it too close or it'll try to merge together like so. So about right there. And maybe make it even more pointy. Okay, so we'll Control L, and now let's go to our top view and drag that to where it fits inside the gums a little better. And we'll just Shift D, duplicate that. And we'll go to our front view, maybe scale that down a little bit just to give some variation there in his teeth. Okay, Shift D, okay. And one thing we can do that'll save us some work later on is before we create any more teeth, let's go ahead and add some seams on the teeth as well for later when we go to start painting the texture map. We won't have to do it, add seams then. We'll already have it done. So let's select this loop around the middle there and deselect that bottom vertex. Do the same thing on these other teeth. Deselect that. Oops. Deselect that. Now we go Control E, mark seam. Okay. And another thing we can do is same thing. Actually, trying to think of the easiest way to do this. I guess we'll just do it one by one. Let's select all of the faces here on the top of the gums. We don't need those, so we'll go ahead and get rid of them. Delete the faces. There we go. So now when we put it inside the jaw or inside the mouth, we can just make it a little taller there. And because we're not going to be rendering that at all, so that'll save a tiny bit of computing power. Any little bit helps a lot of times. So now let's go ahead and add a seam to this while we're at it. And I think since it has an open top, that'll actually kind of be a seam. It'll unwrap it according to that opening. So in order to make it lay flat like a cardboard box that you've opened, let's add a seam right here. Right there. Control E and mark that. So now when it opens up, it'll spread it out along that and it'll split this right here. So, okay. So we got that done. Let's grab these other teeth, or actually just one of them, I guess. Control L. Go back to our top and go ahead and continue adding teeth here. And maybe scale these down a little bit. One more back there. Oops. Okay. So there we go. Let's give him some sharper canine teeth there. As he is a canine. There we are. And now we can duplicate this whole shebang. Control A, or not Control A, just A by itself. Shift D and drag that down. Okay. And now we're going to SZ -1, and that'll essentially mirror it on the Z axis. So go ahead and click that. But unfortunately, when we do that, it tends to flip the normals inside out. So you can see now the normals on the top are pointing out as they should, but if we look in here, all the normals are pointing in. So let's select everything and hit Control N, and that'll recalculate all the normals and say, oh, it's supposed to be this way. So there we go. So now we can select all the vertices down here in the bottom, Control L, and let's make them a little smaller so they kind of fit inside the upper teeth, and he can close his mouth without worrying about his teeth clattering together. So about like so. And there we are. So now we have our teeth for him. So let's scale these down and we'll move them into position. And it doesn't matter that we have the mirror attached, because once we merge it with the head, it'll go ahead and delete that modifier off of the mesh anyway. So go ahead and scale this down until it fits the way it should. And since he's kind of got his mouth open, I guess we can go ahead and separate those. Let's go ahead and turn off the normals. Select the top, Control L, move that up. Then we'll select the bottom, Control L. Now what I did here, the way it selected the teeth too, is see when I selected that, it only looks like it just selected the gums, but it did select that bottom row along all the teeth. So if I hit Control L, it selects everything. Okay. And since we went ahead and added the seams to these teeth, and then when we duplicated it, it duplicated the seams over as well, and then the same thing on the bottom. So we don't have to go back in there later on and give the teeth seams. Get kind of tedious once we get everything done. Okay, so we got the teeth in place. Let's go ahead and add them. We'll have to modify the tongue, obviously, but let's go ahead and add them to the head. So the way we do that is we'll grab them first, and then Shift select the head and hit Control J, and that'll join them to the mesh. But you can see if we zoom in, they're flat shaded right now, and they need to be smooth. So just go ahead and hit smooth. Actually, select the dog again, hit smooth, and there we go. Okay. So let's make the tongue fit in there a little bit better. And looks like they separated out a little bit. So let's select, tell you what, select a vertex on the tongue area. Now remember, if we selected a face, it would only select, well, I guess at this point it doesn't matter, but if we selected a face, it'd select all that. But it will work with the vertex as well, since that's the only thing visible of that mesh right now. So I don't want that selected. I want everything except that selected. So I'm going to go select inverse. And now I have all the teeth. And I can move those towards the middle so that they glue themselves together. Boom, like so. Okay. Now, let's get in here and let's grab the tongue and see if we can't. We have the proportional editing turned on. We'll see if we can't just move that back, increase our fall off on the proportional editing until it's behind the teeth. Go ahead and turn off our mirror for now so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. A little bit further back. And I think that'll do it. Turn that back on. Yes. Okay, so now he's got teeth and a tongue and the inside of the mouth. And we are at the 20-minute mark, so I guess that's going to be all for part 2. I would have liked to have gotten a little bit further, but oh well. Part 3, I guess we'll go in and do the eyes and maybe continue on down the neck. But in any case, that's going to be it for part 2. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in part 3.